So my talk is really about technique, but around learning and change, so behavioural change, ways in which we can improve ourselves through recognition of the potential for change. So, and it looks like the internet is not necessarily picking up everything. So change, it's something we recognise the need for in ourselves. Sometimes we recognise the need for it in others. It's quite difficult to do. As humans, we're all a bit flawed. We've all worked with people who are a little less prone to recognise the need for change in themselves than others. So there's actually a reason for this. So in psychology, a group of researchers called Dunning and Kruger recognised a particular phenomenon. So for people who don't actually know a lot about a subject, they're actually prone to think they know everything about it. So it's not just an anecdotal thing, there's actual research about this. But thank you for that confirmation bias. But the interesting thing is actually the converse. So as you start to learn a lot more about a subject, so become a subject expert, the converse happens. You actually start doubting yourself. The interesting thing about this is it's very particular to Western society. And in Asian society, it's actually reversed. But that's something probably for a much longer talk. So what's the secret to affecting change in yourself? So there's another model, thankfully, that psychologists have come up with, which is known as the 4 stages of learning, or 4 stages to competence. And that's really the basis for my talk. And images, man. Internet is tough in this building. So the tenuous link I'm drawing here is to New Order's album Technique. So the tenuous link there is that it was their first album to go #1, but it was the first time that actually changed the style of music they made. So they started using synthesizers. They went over to a Balearic island called Ibiza, discovered themselves, came back, wrote this new album, was a massive success. So it's an example of change having a positive effect. And again, I'm using it as tenuous links and an excuse to show off some stills from the CD. So the first stage is what's called unconscious competence. This is when you approach something for the first time, you discover you know nothing about it. Seems really hard. One of the most difficult things is actually persevering through that, discovering what you actually need to learn. So a lot of people will get stuck at this stage. The next stage is what's called conscious incompetence. So you've learned a little bit about something. Great. Where do you go from there? How do you actually recognise that you don't know more? A lot of people get stuck at this stage. I think, I know myself, we've probably worked with a lot of people like this. They know a little bit about subject matter and they're able to wax rhapsodic about how they know everything about this particular technology or framework or things like that. So it's important to be open-minded and actually be aware of things that you don't know. Ways of doing this, thankfully, through things like Coursera, it's much easier now to actually go and learn about things which previously would have been difficult to learn about. For example, psychology, or particular areas of discrete mathematics, or languages, or many other topics. So the third stage is what's called conscious competence. At this point, you've actually learned quite a lot about a particular subject. You're a subject matter expert. But the difficult thing about achieving this, so for example, becoming an expert in garbage collection in V8, the JavaScript engine, it's difficult to actually do on demand. So the things you have to do from this point is, you know, the techniques of most incredibly productive people, it's actually repeating these things. So as programmers, or even developers of any kind. Ways you can improve this stuff is doing things like code katas or code dojos, practicing things, honing your skills, working with people you work with or friends or meetups. Lots of great ways through repetition to actually build your skills. I was going to touch on source control after Keenan's reference to it. The beauty of distributed version control is everyone should be backing stuff up, particularly now with Git. Very easy to back up stuff. Designers should be doing it. Everyone should be commit often. Here at Big Commerce, we quite often use GitHub accounts as resumes. It's a great way to get an insight into someone's knowledge just by replaying commit history. So the final stage, and the text is a little bit more wordy about it because it's from the actual definition in the original text. This is the point where you're doing things unconsciously. So you're so aware of something, you know Git, as an example, you know the examples so well that you're aliasing, you're able to write it unconsciously, you're piping it to each other. You know what porcelain means and how to use it effectively in a script. And that's it.